Hello there, everybody. It's Colonel Snowman here with another episode of BLT stuff, and I'm here just to talk about some stuff since the last cycle just ended yesterday. And so I wanted to just talk about all the players who qualified and subs, and basically just talk a little bit about everybody who have qualified and like what they're good at and like what to look out for them. I'm not going to be doing a power rankings like I have in past years, mostly because now that I'm more of a position to like kind of a lot of people will look towards my opinion for a lot of stuff. I don't want to feel bad about some players who I don't really like know that well and kind of put them down, if you will, because I don't think I have the full information on a lot of players this year. While I do know a lot of the players, I don't know everybody. Because of that, I don't want to be making like uninformed kind of like decisions about that kind of stuff. So I just want to talk about it. And also because I'm a manager this year, I don't really want to be revealing my draft plans. Even though I did something like this last year, don't think it's that big of a deal. But I did still want to make a video because I haven't done something like YouTube related for a little bit because I've been busy with other stuff. And I just wanted to kind of talk through my thoughts about all these players. So we can start with the first cycle. Peachy Clouds. He's most known for being a mono player, but he's generally pretty good at most of the different tiers. I expect that he's probably going to play like LC, OU, or Ubers this year. I wouldn't say he's outstanding, nothing like he is a mono player, but he's still solid and he's gotten a lot better in the past few years since he first got onto the BLT scene. So I'll be interested to see how well he does with mono no longer in the pool. Oras Mega, he is a pretty good player overall. I expect him to be playing, UU, RU, or Ubers, like basically any of those lower tiers. Ubers being like a quote unquote lower tier here. And I expect him to have some pretty good success. I don't know what he's been up to since the last BLT, but he has some BLT experience and generally has been a player that's stuck around the tour scene in the past few years. So while he's been kind of like a little bit below the top cut of those top players that have been around, I think if he has been playing Mons competitively for this time, then he's probably gotten a little better. And also, he did play second during that cycle, so that does take like a relatively high amount of skill. You can't just do it, get like 200 points if you're bad. And Jaren makes his return um, to the tours room with another BLT appearance. I believe this is his first event in 2 years or something along those lines. He's always, he's had the same issues. I think he's gotten maybe a little bit better about his attitude stuff than he was a few years ago. But it'll be interesting to see because he is mostly able to play whatever. And I think a lot of the older guard players like myself and uh, like people who are around from my kind of like era of Tours Room kind of still have a bad impression of Jiren. Um, I myself think that he's improved a little bit, but I think it will, like, I'm not, the verdict isn't out yet, so I'll be interested to see how he does throughout this tournament as a, not a competitor, because I think he's still being very, like, solid like, around Smogon, but just, like, as a person, as a teammate. But I think he can play a lot of different tiers at a pretty high level. I think LC is probably one of his best, but the LC competition in this tour is going to be pretty high, so I'll be interested to see what he wants to play. LK, LCAP, LK, PKD, OU, or I mean, sorry, Ubers is probably what he's going to be playing. I still think he's not very good. Uh, he really hasn't shown that many signs of improvement throughout his years, which is like the biggest thing, because while he was like not like he was pretty good, or like decently good, before, he hasn't really improved in the past few years, which is really what makes me rate him lower, because I think he plays very linearly. He has very predictable tendencies. He brings predictable teams and whatnot. And then I qualified as the next spot. Not that much to say about myself. I'll be playing Ubers probably because Trace wants me to, but we'll see. 100% GXE. I think of him really highly. I think he's one of the better players in this tournament. He had a pretty good showing in TLT, and he's, I think, just been a very good player. And like me getting to know him a little bit better in general, I think he is one of the better players here. And he has a little bit of flexibility. Like I think a lot of the players towards the top end have a lot of flexibility, but I think his best tier will be Ubers. So I'll be interested to see where he goes. But um, Ubers is the tier I think he's the best at. And then Terracotta, he will his best tier is Ubers, but he did say he didn't want to be playing Ubers in this tournament. So I'm interested to see where he will decide to play, like many of the other players here on this list. But he is a pretty good player. I think he is. If he was playing Ubers, he would be considered like top at the very top end. If not, I don't know how much success he's had outside of Ubers, so I can't really speak on that. But he's a solid player. London. London is a really good player, but the LC pool in BLT or just in Tours Room has generally been very high. Like a lot of the top tier LC players have decided to play in a lot of the Tours Room events, so that does take him down a little notch. Although he's had a very good year and LCPL this year, so he definitely could like play well and be a competitor for the top tier LC. He could also be playing for doubles. We will see. I think it really just depends on how his team gets drafted. Prince of all tacos, I think he is like pretty decent player overall. I think he's a little bit of a notch below some of the other top upper end players, but he's definitely not bad. And has been a regular person in the tours room. I think he is still a little bit immature in my opinion, but like I don't think it's bad enough to warrant it being like labeled as an attitude issue, because I do think that players, or at least in my opinion, attitude does definitely play a role when I'm selecting players, because it's not just about how you are playing; it's about how easy you are to work with and like all the other stuff regarding that. Attribute is generally known as a mono player. I believe he also plays OU on the side, but with mono not being in this tour, I assume he's probably going to be playing OU. I'm not 100% sure how good he is though, because I don't know all the tournament results, but I have seen him like heard his name around in towards circles, so I don't know how well he'll perform, but we'll see. Ziri, he's definitely going to be the best PU player in the tournament for sure. He's going to be playing alongside or like with on MJ's team, so that team's going to be threatening for sure. And with PU now being in BLT, he is definitely going to be the top tier PU player, because there's not that many PU players who are joining us, and a lot of the players in BLT don't really know that much about PU, I believe, in my opinion, at least. So he definitely is going to be in that, like, in the probably the best PU player. Harley Tombigan, I'm not too sure about this guy. I don't know. I believe he's been in a few tours room. I'm not sure if he's been in a tours room event actually, but I'm not too sure. Not too sure. So once again, I am talking about it in this format just so that I don't talk badly about players I don't know that much about. So I don't know that much about this guy, so I'm just gonna say pass. And King of Crimea, pretty good UU and RU player. I think he's more been focused on RU recently, or like recent times, and I think he's going to be a good player and have good results. I trust him to go like something like a 4-1 or something like that. But we'll see how well he does and performs against the rest of the competition. Jack in My Box, I'm not too sure about either. Name sounds kind of familiar, but I'm not 100% sure. It might be somebody I know if it was a name change or something, but does sound familiar. I'm just not 100% sure. Looks like he might be a Tours Room regular, actually. Frisso, not much to say about him. He's going to be a top tier player. He's one of the best overall players in this tournament. He can play a lot of different tiers at a high level, Ubers, LC, um, and OU and doubles. I think it depends on who he gets paired with, but he can really play most of everything well. And then P-Toad, he's been around for a while now. I don't know how good he is, honestly, just because, like, when you're around a long time, you can kind of like fall in and out of mons. So it's hard to say, but he may be pretty good. He may not be. It depends on how hard he'll try for this and whatnot. And then the subs, not that much to say there. So let's move on to the next round of qualifications. Raj.shoot. Honestly, I didn't even know he played Mons. I'm like not even memeing. Like, I don't know how good he is because I've like not watched him play Mons very much. Plum Soil Punks is going to be a pretty good player. He's had some decent success throughout the year leading up to BLT, so I'll be interested to see how well he does there. And then there's like a lot of Tours Room regular players like Ronman5, Shadow Monster, Pidgeot Mega, well, including Plum Soil Punks and like Sam Bichu Kaiju. I don't know how to pronounce that. Who I'm interested to see how well they do because these players generally have only had kind of anything notable in Tours Room before. There's some interesting subs here as well, like Luthier. But we'll have to see how well they do because I haven't seen what they've been able to do outside of Tours Room. And there is actually like at the top end still like a pretty powerful like group of old guard players and like other top players who are joining BLT. So it's really on them to prove themselves throughout these BLTs, like some of the newer or like some of the older players did before. To be able to show that you are a top player, you have to beat kind of like the current top players. And BLT is a good proving ground because you're guaranteed a spot, you're guaranteed a playing spot if you want it. So it's really just about if you're up to the challenge. And so a lot of the newer players, the thing that is good about them is that they often will have a lot of motivation to get better, and they'll use BLT as a learning experience. So it is good for players, like for managers who want to pick them up that they're not very, even if they're not very good right now, they can get a lot better throughout the course of the tournament. Uh, that said, there's like still a lot of good picks in this cycle as well. Like SMB is definitely a top doubles player right now, and he's going to be the best one in this tournament, I believe. Um, and then the Welsh Wall is going to be very good for his team. Obviously, going to be a manager pickup. Snowfall is going to be very good as well in NU and OU and UU, depends on what he decides to play. Dennis the Menace, a good OU player as well as Chaitanya. I still don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Keeping it icy, coming off an undefeated split or was it undefeated or like the best record in the league last year in BLT. Maroon, McCav, like all of these known players will be definitely here to like prove themselves and show that they're still on top and the best. The worry about older players or like I worry about players who aren't very integrated in Tours Room, like I don't know, Dennis the Menace, for example. I'm more so talking about players like Attribute or something like that that don't have a deep connection to Tours Room. that are like already proven outside of smoke, or like outside of Tour's room, is that they can lose motivation very quickly if they're on a losing team or lose a couple games or something like that, because they often feel like BLT is kind of not really like kind of beneath them, you know. And in other team tours, if you lose a couple games or whatever and you get subbed out, then you know you can just ignore the team tour. It's not like your problem anymore. But in BLT, because of the way the format is like made, if you're quitting, it's like actually a really big deal. And this is something that's happened in the past few years with some of the top players, like um, Matame in the past and a couple of BLTs ago, and stuff like that. So it's really just yeah. And then obligatorily, this guy, I want a. This is the worst fucking name ever. Like, just I don't know what he was doing. He's gonna be a good player, I guess, but you also would have to have him on your team. So yeah, imagine having cheese on your team. Couldn't be me. So let's move on to cycle 3. Omnis Draco. So I'll just point out like who are the top players here. Havens, Omnis Draco, Mysterious M, and then I think in a tier below them will be like DJ Berluminati, so Spitfire Arcanine, you know, RS9, Toad, like these other players who have already seen a lot of um, experience kind of in Tour's room, doing a lot of different events. You can kind of see the same names always popping up, like Stificon, Toad, the Ars9, yeah, these guys. This guy, I don't know who he is. He seems to have been around for a while. Maybe he's I guess he's an OU player or something like that. I haven't heard of him, so that's. It seems like he might be a good player, but kind of the same thing I said about before. I don't know how in tune he is with the BLT or Tour's room kind of experience. Some guys who are not really like Tour's room people, like I would consider myself like a Tour's room guy because I really my competitive experience and background all came from Tour's room, and a lot of the people here like Amish Draco and these kind of people who are like bred through Tour's room, and they like kind of got their first dip into the competitive scene with Tour's room. Like they have a deep connection to BLT, but there are also players who have been around and they joined BLT kind of on a whim and they enjoyed it, and so they've been around and done some Tour's room events for a while. And Mysterious M is one of those people. So he's one of those people who like I kind of trust more about, like, if you want to pick him up and you think he's going to like have a consistent role in your team. So he's like gonna have that motivation to like do well in BLT. And I'm sure he enjoys it and whatnot. And then a lot of these other guys are Tour's room regulars who have yet to prove themselves. So this guy, Trajodius, I guess that's how you pronounce it. I'm not too sure. Dan DeMan, and like some of these other guys who have really yet to prove themselves, who are Tour's room regulars. I'm not sure who Skipcan is, but some of these other guys like PokeArt, Sificon has been in a few Tour's room events, but when it's like their first time playing in a Tour's room event, I think they'll have a little bit more pressure to prove themselves. And then there's some other people here, like I said before, Havens, and Havens will probably be playing doubles or something like that. He has been getting into that scene and did get drafted for doubles PL. And then some of the subs. So yeah, I think like in general, we're getting a nice mix. There's some of these old guard players. There's some of the top players from other tiers who are coming to join, like Havens and Mysterious M. And then we're also getting some like Tour's room regulars who come to Tour's room events a lot, and then we're also getting some of the newer players who are just like first kind of getting their first experience in BLT or just competitive Pokemon. So I think it's a nice mix, and I don't think anything is different in the final group. Like Skelly, he's a really old guard player. Um, I mean, I'll be interested to see how much motivation he'll have and whatnot because he's like while he's been around for a long time, he doesn't really play competitive ones that much anymore. Some of these other guys, Ninja Dog is like a top player, Sanjay as well, and like Ham is really like a towards room regular, or like some of that old guard kind of group, along with like Serene Grace, and these kind of people who really have been really in tune with the towards room environment. And then some of the regulars like Richard Pepper, Carolina, um, and some of the newer players like Lugia Newmare and whatnot. So um, and Epic Boost and these guys. So I don't really want to be like um, I did kind of like start by going a little bit more in depth, but I kind of realized that I I don't think that was like necessary, I guess. But I'm sorry if I don't know who you are and I didn't really like go in depth and talk exactly about who you are if you were one of the people who qualified for BLT because I think it will be interesting really just to see the BLT kind of unfold and who gets picked up, and I'll kind of be the like judge how the final drafts look, right? Because um, I think judging each individual player isn't really fair because some players have a lot of like supposed value because they maybe seem very good on like multiple different tiers, but when you put them on a team, um, flexibility may be very powerful and just when approaching a draft, but it may not be the best thing because maybe they're not the best at a given tier, like say SMB or like Ninja Dog, who have risen to be kind of like the top players of their respective tiers, like top five. Um, so like it's really going to be kind of depends on how well like how these drafts pan out to see like where these players lie. But I'm really interested to see how like this season turns out because I think this is a really healthy mix between the top players, the new players, the people who have yet to prove themselves, kind of. And so it's really going to be interesting this BLT to see like who does what and like how well everything goes. One other thing on top of everything else I mentioned is that it'll be interesting to see who goes on what tiers as well. Because while I've brought this up before, I think PU is something that's like really weak in this BLT. So I think every BLT there's been some tiers that have been very, very strong and some tiers that are very weak. So like last year I thought, for example, Ubers was very weak because I felt like I was like really the only really good player alongside MJ, and a lot of the players in Ubers were not really that good. Um, in this year, I think Ubers has like a lot better of a pool, but PU this year has a very bad pool in my opinion. There's a lot of weak or like there's very few mains with I think Ziri, Snow, Jiniri or Ziri being really the only top player in PU, and so it'll be interesting to see where the other like 7 slots of PU come from. So um, I think that's like basically what I wanted to say about BLT, and thank you guys for watching, and I hope you guys enjoyed. And I hope you're looking forward to more BLT content because this is just the first video with a lot of new stuff to come. I may be a little bit late because maybe a little bit late with all the BLT videos later on because I will be busy with finals coming up for me, and so when I'm finished with all of that at the end of week 1 for BLT, I'll be able to really ramp up and basically be doing some more BLT content. So just look forward to that. And I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time for another episode of BLT stuff.